In this video, I'm going to show you how to convert imperfect circles into perfectly round circles. And this is something that can happen that, for example, you find a JPEG or a PNG file and you auto trace it in SCAL or some other program, and you'll always find that the circles are not perfectly round after tracing. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to hide these layers and just zoom in so that you can see some of these circles and what I'm talking about. All right, so let me move some of my things out of the way here. So you can see that they're all like a little bit wonky, as I call it. So, and that may not matter, kind of depends, but if you're, wanting those circles to be absolutely perfectly round, and it may show up in your cutting if they're not, then I'll show you a quick way to do that, relatively quick way in Cuts a Lot. So to start with, let's zoom back out. And then, as you can see, I'd already set up this file into different layers, and that's what I recommend that you do is to, get it all separated so that you have all of your circles of one size in one layer. The red ones are larger than the blue, so I put all of those on one layer over here, and then I have all the blue on another layer. And I'm going to just quickly rename this red so that I have them separated, red and blue, and then I've got the petals and the outside pattern. So I'm going to select, the first thing I want to do is make copies of both of these layers, and I'll show you later why that's important. So I'm going to take this red layer and go to, actually I could do both of them at once. Let me select both and go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place. All right, and then when I do that, I'm going to hide both of those layers temporarily, those copies, and so I'm just working with these two. All right, so now one layer at a time, I'm going to take, let's hide the blue and let's start with the red layer. So I need to know what size the circles roughly are so that I know what I want to replace them with, what size. So since it's all grouped together, I need to break it apart. So I'm going to go to Object, and you can use Ungroup if Ungroup is, showing, but otherwise use Break Apart. And then I can just kind of start selecting one of these. I can select this one, and I'll notice that it's 0.27 inches. Well, the rhinestone effect that we're going to be using in SCAL only works in millimeters. So you need to come over here to your document panel and change the units from inches to millimeters so that you know what the size is in millimeters. And now that you can see it's like 6.8. And then you can just kind of randomly test a few more and see what they all are, 6.8, 6.8, just kind of test each one. So it looks like 6.8 is roughly the rough size. It doesn't matter, once you get within 0.1 of a millimeter, it's not going to make any difference. So select all of your circles and then go to Effects, Rhinestones, and then change this from 1.5 to 6.8. Okay, and then leave the stone spacing what it is. You want it nice and big, and then click on the round one because that's what you want. You want to create circles, and then click on OK. Now you'll notice when I did that, they jumped just a little bit. Not all of them jumped. You'll notice down here these three are no longer evenly spaced, and then up here where these two are close together, these two aren't. So what happens? There's a certain imperfection, I guess, a bug in the software that doesn't treat everything exactly the same, but that's why we made this backup. So before I get into moving them, I need to break them apart so I can individually move some of these circles. So I come back to Object and go to Break Apart. Now then they're individual circles that I can move. They're now perfect circles, they're nice and round. And then I need to find that backup layer that I made down here, and I'm going to turn it on, but it's the same color. I need to separate it. So let me select that backup layer, and then I'll change the color to, I don't know, let's make it this green. Now that I can clearly see where those circles were, and I might want to lock that layer also so that I'm not going to inadvertently move the original location of those circles. And now then I can just move, the ones that I created. So with that locked, now I can come back and select all those individual circles, and I can just kind of move them down a little bit. Now you'll notice that as I'm moving them down, these up here, most of them are looking really good in terms of location. Some of them aren't, but I'm going to be able to manually move those. So let me just kind of shift this down a little bit until I get most of them overlapping. Then I can zoom in here on these, all right, and then I can select each circle against the red ones and move them up into position. And I don't know why the software does this, but it just does, but that's okay. As you can see, you can deal with it. And this, like here, so here's slightly off. Well, it may not matter if it's slightly off. That's, it's very tiny if it is off. But this one obviously is quite a ways off. So these are the ones that I'm fixing. Just a few, just like this. And again, they're nice, perfect circles now. Okay, something like that. All right. And then once you get them and then zoom out, make sure you got all of them. All right. Now that I no longer need this original layer here, so I can select this original layer and then just delete it. Okay, let's move these back over again. Then I can select all of my red circles, make sure I get all of the new ones that are the perfect circles, and go to Object Group. Okay, now then any of these extra empty layers you have here, you can get rid of those by clicking on this icon and select Remove Empty Layers. Or you could also have gone to Layer, Remove Empty Layers. All right, so basically that group is done. So I can turn that off. Now that I have these other two, which is the original and the backup layer. So this backup layer, again, I want it to be a different color so I'll be able to recognize it. So maybe I'll just make it black. Okay, and then I'll go back and hide it, and then I can take this blue layer here and go to, oh, I need to break it up so I can see what size the circles are. So let's go to Object, Break Apart, and then when I select each one, I see that it's 6.07 millimeters approximately. And these happen to be about the same. There's not as much variation as there was in the larger ones, but either way, they still were not perfect circles. So I want to correct that. So then I select all these circles, go to Effects, Rhinestones, enter the stone size, 6.07, okay, select the circle, click on OK. And now then I have all of those together, and I can break those apart, Object, Break Apart, so that I can move them, all right? So then I come back to the layer that I had turned to black circles, my backup layer, and I can see those there, and I lock it. Then I can select this blue layer, and I'm going to zoom in, and try that again. Only in the videos, right? So it's like that blue layer, and then I'm just going to bring it down a little bit and get it lined up and see if there's any of them that, now in this case, none of them, were way out of alignment like the red ones, probably because there's fewer of them or something like that. But I can just get those lined up back where they need to be. Something like that. All right, and then I can come and unlock this backup layer that was black, and I can delete it. And then basically that's it. I've got my red ones in place, and then I can come back and turn on the green and the yellow, and now then I have the perfect circles. So if you have any questions, be sure and let me know. But again, it's a pretty easy process. All in all, the rhinestone effects, you think that, oh, that's just for rhinestone designing. Well, not necessarily. It has another purpose.